Well, over the weekend I got quite a bit done on the GMC. I ended up power washing it yesterday and it actually cleaned up pretty nice. So I just been picking away at some stuff little by little. I ended up taking care of the holes in the roof, the little mounts that they had stuck in there. I pulled those out, those clips, so those can get all welded up now. I just have a board on it because it was raining the other day. And I washed the engine off and everything. Still waiting on my parts to come in. They should be in tomorrow. Then I can get my carburetor back together. Everything seemed to clean up pretty good. Get rid of a lot of the dirt and dust and everything like that. So happy about that. I also ended up greasing the front end of it last night, and it took a lot of grease. So that's all squared away and set. I also pulled the grill off the front, as you can see. And I was going to put one of my other grills on for the time being. Unfortunately, what they did for the big trucks is these brackets here are different because of the front of the truck. So I'm going to have to drill out these factory rivets here. I'll probably just put 1024 bolts in them. You're never going to see them anyways because they're facing the back. That way you can get the grill off. But if anything, I'm going to drive it to where it's going to be staying for the winter, and then I'll just pull the grill off and take care of the brackets later on over the winter. And the interior seemed to clean up pretty nice. I got all the rubber matting off the floor and did a lot of scraping and vacuuming and wire brushing. So that cleaned up pretty good. Ended up finding the wires that run to the back for the lights, the old wires, which they're still working, so I'll be using those. Also put some mud flaps on the rear end. Ended up pulling the dash bezel out of it and the gauge clusters and everything. Cleaned all those up, made sure they're working. I ended up freeing up the cables for the vents on either side, so those work now. The fan for the heater box works. Obviously enough, don't know if the heat works until I run the truck long enough. I also ended up figuring out what this little gearbox thing is for. This compensates for when you shift your high speed and low speed rear axle, because your drive shaft stays the same but your differential speed changes, if I got that right. So this is a little planetary set inside with a solenoid. And I really can't explain how it works without pulling it apart, and I'm not going to do that again. So, but that's all taken care of, so I'm just waiting on my parts for that. And I'm going to have to come up with a piece of rubber to put for the PTO shifter, put over that. Let me get that hole sealed off for now. I got to wash the windshield again. After I power washed it, I got covered in crap. I also picked up some parts for my spotlights on the side, because when you turn this handle, this light is supposed to swivel like this, so it doesn't. So I picked up some parts for those. I also got a lead on some door parts, along with some windows and vent windows. And as for the mirrors, I'd like to put the original ones on here. I'm gonna have to make up some brackets for them. So right now I'm just pulling all the spark plugs out, checking the wires with the meter and everything. And I noticed this was the last one I pulled out. The back cylinder over here, not too bad a shape. They're to the point where I just gapped them and I'm still going to run them. They're not overly bad. But every single spark plug in this engine was loose or just barely snugged down, especially this back one over here on this side. It was probably about halfway out. So that would be another reason to why this wasn't running good. But I think for now I'm going to run these plugs and wires, and then probably come springtime when it comes out of storage, I'll probably end up going through and putting new plugs and wires in it and just doing that part of the tune-up. Well, on the way home from work today, I ended up picking up a bunch of parts at Napa. I have my carburetor rebuild kit, my speedometer cable, point set, fuel filter, and I also picked up a trailer light set for the back so I can rig up some lights. So we're losing light fast being this time of the year. I only have about an hour till it starts to get dark, or really dark out. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to tackle the points in the distributor, get those taken care of first. I went over all the plug wires last night. They all seem decent, so hopefully this thing will run all right with them. But we're going to get the distributor done, and we can rebuild the carburetor. And if everything works out, hopefully I'll be able to start this up tonight and see how it runs after I've done all the work to it. So let's get to it. So I'm going to try to leave all these plug wires connected so I don't have to make a little schematic, as long as I can get the cap far enough out of the way. Probably gonna have to run some paper over the contacts on the inside, but not a big deal. Now, keep in mind, this is the first time I've done one of these distributors before. Now, before I take these out, I roll my engine over by hand till the point's open. And yes, my battery is disconnected. I want to take that off, rather not have to mess with that. Yeah, got a little bit of water in there from when I power washed it, but nothing big. Yeah, those don't look too great. Well, let's get a new set in there. Alright, so I went ahead and ran some 400 grit sandpaper through the distributor cap. So I cleaned up all those contacts. Those came out real nice. So it's just touching right now. And I slide the feeler gauge through, so that should do it. And I also cleaned up the rotor, cleaned up the contacts here and here. So I know that's all set. These old distributor caps, for those of you who don't know, are actually pretty cool. Hopefully that's picking it up. You see they have these little tabs on the side where you just push a flathead screwdriver in and they go in and turn and they'll hook on the bottom of the distributor. And there's also, I don't know if you're going to see it or not, but there's a little door on the side of the distributor cap here, so that way you can access your point gap screw there. I would assume when the engine is running, if you have to adjust it, you are able to. So I thought that was kind of unique. Alright, and now all I'm going to have to do is get my coil, and that's going to get mounted back over here. I don't know if it's in the camera or not, but I guess mounted to the valve cover. I got to hook up my power wire, my wire coming from the points, and then my ignition will be all taken care of. Well, we're burning daylight. It's getting dark out, but got the distributor all back together, my coil all mounted and all set, so move on to the carburetor. Alright, so I have all my carburetor parts, all the new stuff over here, and that's all the used stuff there. So it's my first time rebuilding one of these, so I'm just going to be pretty much putting it together as I took it apart. What I'm familiar with, they sent some directions, but who needs those, right? So I got these little caps here that go where these jets are on the bottom. So I'm going to be cleaning those up first and putting those in. So I have these little copper O-rings. I'm going to slip over here. Those just get threaded in. So you guys should pretty much be able to get the idea on rebuilding this. I'm not going to film the whole thing because it's going to take me a while to do filming it and explaining it. So I'll check back when everything's back together. So there you have it. It's all back together and everything. I got all the linkages bolted to the side of it, bottom plates on and all and whatnot. So ready to go onto the truck. So I'm going to set up some spotlights outside and throw the carburetor on and get our fuel system all set. Alright, well my carburetor's back on, the fuel filter's on. Everything should be all set. I splashed some gas down the carburetor, so it's the time I've been waiting for the past couple days now. Let's see if it'll fire up. That's not too bad. It's running a little rough to my liking, but at least it stays idling now. Not too bad overall. I'm pretty happy with it. So I guess that'll be all for tonight. Maybe tomorrow when I get home we can take it for a little spin around the block and see how it does.